take advantage of its longevity and stability on the field and actually get some really good damage out. However, we do have the lead. We are starting this stream off in great fashion. Urshifu single strike over on Lorenzo's side, accompanied by that Tornadus against the Urshifu Choice Scarfed Rapid Strike on Tom, accompanied by the Farigiraf.
We're already into almost awkward territory straight away on turn one. The Urshifu Rapid Strike is the fastest Pokemon at the moment, maybe forcing this Tornadus to go for a Tailwind to start outspeeding that. But then if you do that, the Farigiraf could just set that Trick Room as well. Maybe that's why the single strike Urshifu has been led by Lorenzo, because that's going to threaten a lot of damage into the Farigiraf, maybe forcing a Terastallization as well. So I think it's very strong leads coming out from both of these trainers. No one seems to have got the upper hand on this, and it's just going to come down to predictions.
Yeah, and it usually does, doesn't it, when you've got this standoff situation. Do you opt to go for the offensive with the Tornadus, or do you not? However, we do have a Terastallization coming out from Tom's Farigiraf here, wanting to perhaps go into a more defensive situation and avoid super effective Wicked Blows coming out.
Yeah, and then just regular old U-turn, that's going to break the focus sash of that single strike Urshifu very nicely. And if this is a Trick Room coming out from the Farigiraf, something that's a lot slower than the Choice Scarf Urshifu would benefit from that a lot.
Oh, it would, as we're going to see the Archaludon now make its way on the field. Bleakwind Storm, talk about Bleakwind Miss on the Farigiraf. Not what you would like to see if you are Lorenzo, if you are focusing down on that slot. But guess what? That great switching does allow the stamina boost to give the +1 defense into that Archaludon. And now, Wicked Blow, of course, not being enough due to that Terastallization, sort of foregoing its weakness. The Dark type allows Farigiraf to get that Trick Room up.
It definitely seems like Tom got the better end of that first turn. Of course, dodging the Bleakwind Storm is very beneficial for the Farigiraf. It would have been really close if it was able to survive the Bleakwind Storm into the Wicked Blow, but thanks to that miss, definitely able to survive. Using the Terastallization to be able to do that, you absolutely need to, otherwise the Wicked Blow would have KO'd you. But now the Archaludon looks to be in a pretty solid position. The single strike Urshifu's Focus Sash has been broken, so you could probably follow up with just a Body Press to be able to KO it at this point.
Oh, as we're going to actually see a switch out here, maybe the Pelipper, and it is indeed the Pelipper. You want to try to get that range set up. You have now the option of going for those Electro Shots. It will give you the +1 in special attack. It will turn what was a 2-turn move into a 1-turn move and absolutely dispatch huge amounts of damage here, but it will depend on what you are targeting. The Raging Bolt has now switched in for the Tornadus, and the question is, will that attack go into the slot or try to focus down on an Urshifu, which hasn't actually opted for Protect, and it does.
Yeah, it's going to take care of that very nicely. That was the thing threatening the damage through the stamina boost. It was going to be able to Wicked Blow critical hit, ignore any stamina boost from the Archaludon, but not going for the super effective hit, just going for the regular old attack, able to take care of that Urshifu. Now the Archaludon's in a fantastic spot. It's facing down the Raging Bolt. Speed tiers might be a little bit awkward, depending on how both of these Pokemon have been trained. They are both carrying the Assault Vest, so they probably are trained a lot into bulk and not much into speed.
Yep.
But Archaludon does naturally outspeed the opposing Raging Bolt, so depending on training here, it could be a little bit awkward. Archaludon's threatening some massive damage now that the Dragon Pulse has got +1. That would still be able to chunk the Raging Bolt a lot.
And we do have Ogerpon now on the field, right? It's able to go ahead and have that availability of the redirection, which is quite nice, and maybe something that Lorenzo's wanting to try to focus down on, as long as he keeps the Raging Bolt safe, he's able to just go ahead and handle any sort of damage that goes into its spot, or more importantly, start wearing down Tom's Pokemon. That's really what he needs to try to utilize now.
Yeah, and he's utilizing his Terastallization here to be able to get that Raging Bolt maybe immune to the Dragon Pulses that could have come out. Of course, the Fairy Terastallization really helps with that because now the only damage you can really do into the Raging Bolt would have been Heavy Slam. At least that bypasses the Assault Vest, though.
Yeah, as we actually see a spiky shield here. Lorenzo not opting to go for the redirection just yet, hence why he went for the Terastallization there to forego any sort of Dragon types focusing into that slot. Hurricane really wanting to dispatch the Ogerpon here. However, got Snarl and a bit of a sneak peek of the speed interactions there. Raging Bolt over on Lorenzo's side actually moving first still under Trick Room conditions, being able to bring that Archaludon down to 0, or should I say neutral, but now with this Electro Shot, it's going to be going back up to +1. But more importantly, there's also that +2 in its defense side because of stamina proccing. But the question is, I'd say this is like just a bit over good chip damage to a Raging Pulp.
But that was an Electro Shot into a quad resist. It went for the Terastallization this turn, so a fantastic play coming out from Tom there. If you'd have doubled into the Ogerpon, a Hurricane and an Electro Shot kind of pins the Ogerpon in and out of its Terra, because you'd hit it super effectively with Hurricane without Terra, and you'd hit it super effectively with Electro Shot in the Terra. So now that the Spiky Shield has been committed, you've got some extra chip into the Raging Bolt as well. You could very safely just go for a Hurricane and Electro Shot into that Ogerpon if you do want, but then the Raging Bolt can just go for those Snarls again, try and reduce that special attack. You cancelled it with your second Electro Shot, so the Archaludon is now still back up +1, still threatening some absolutely massive damage here.
It sort of shows that Tom has a really good awareness of the board state, you know, knowing that Lorenzo either goes for the redirection or tries to focus down on the Terastallization, which is a really good read there. As we do, of course, have the Thunderclap coming out, and because, of course, it may have been a bit of a sneak peek of trying to focus down the Pelipper there, but try to dispatch it in favor of the Ogerpon being freed up there, but we do have another Electro Shot right now that is about to be dispatched. It is at +2 special attack, ladies and gents, and the lovely peeps. Be careful of the damage. This Pokemon 10 dispatch doesn't quite pick up the KO, but the Ivy Cudgel focusing down here on a +2 defense, critical hit actually goes straight through the +2 defense, which is maybe the reason why Lorenzo opted to go for that, even if it's a resisted attack. Yeah,
that wouldn't have done much damage. I know the rain is up, so it would have done okay damage, but +2 defense would have been able to shrug that off pretty significantly. That is a fortunate critical hit, but the Archaludon now at +3, it will still be able to shrug off another Ivy Cudgel if it doesn't get the critical hit. The Farigiraf is probably underspeeding the Raging Bolt here, and it's taken a lot of damage. It's probably in range of the High Poise, even with the Assault Vest and the fact that Raging Bolt is so bulky. Farigiraf doesn't have its Throat Spray activated, so it might just be able to survive, but it's going to be super close, and if it is able to get the KO, this could be a double KO here for a Hyper Voice into an Electro Shot into this Follow Me Ogerpon.
Oh, but let's see what happens. Is it enough to pick up the KO? It is indeed. So the Follow Me at this point feels absolutely pointless, but it was just used in order to sort of forego a situation where this Farigiraf didn't have enough special attack investment to be able to pick up the KO. But no, I think the riding is starting to be on the wall, at least for now, within Trick Room conditions, as the Throat Spray is now activated. Electro Shot bringing this Pokemon straight up to very scary heights on being able to dispatch of this Ogerpon. Let's see if it is enough, and it is indeed, Jamie. And all of a sudden, Lorenzo's down to his final Pokemon.
Yeah, that's a fantastic showing for this Archaludon right here. Just going for Electro Shot after Electro Shot, and Lorenzo got rid of his resistance to that. The Raging Bolt is a fantastic Pokemon to soak up any of those Electro Shots, but went for the Terra Fairy instead, expecting a Dragon Pulse, and then Tom was able to capitalize on that very, very well indeed. This lone Tornadus probably not able to pick up the knockout on all 4 of Pokemon's that Tom does have remaining. A fantastic showing in this game 1, able to utilize the Trick Room and then that Archaludon very, very well indeed.
So it's a really good sort of strategy of just piling up those Electro Shots as you go and being able to position yourself to the point where Archaludon is just such a beast of damage output. But yeah, talking about damage output, Tornadus not quite enough to pick up the KOs on both the Farigiraf and the Archaludon. However, this Electro Shot most definitely will be, and we've got a situation where Tom has been able to win out this game 1 in stellar fashion, you know, still having all 4 of his Pokemon with such a strong strategy, Trick Room, and then reliance on those Electro Shots combined with the rain conditions.
Yeah, really, really strong showing for Archaludon there. We also got confirmation that the Bleak Windstorm miss didn't particularly matter in regards to setting up Trick Room, because that Farigiraf was able to survive the Bleak Windstorm with the remaining HP it had. So if Lorenzo goes with the same lead, then you're not going to be able to KO the Farigiraf based on just the Bleak Windstorm and the Wicked Blow. That means that that Tom would be able to get that Trick Room pretty comfortably with just using his Terastallization, and that's all it needed to do. As soon as you got into the Trick Room, Archaludon was just able to Electro Shot everything. It was definitely needs a much stronger answer to that Archaludon.
So it's sort of the situation where Lorenzo recognized that he needs to either dispatch of the Trick Room setup or maybe rely a bit more on that Raging Pulp. But of course, we did see, because of the situation where Archaludon was already set up, it had multiple special attack boosts because of the Electro Shot, it was put in a position where you either have to try to redirect all of the damage going into the Raging Bolt, or you just have to focus in on, going for the terrestrialization, which it seemed like it wasn't too as much beneficial as Lorenzo would have liked. So would you suggest then maybe not even terrestrializing the Raging Bolt going into this game too?
Electro Shot was the main damage dealer for the entirety of that match, so does want to probably try and preserve that Terra. But then, of course, if Tom switches it up and just goes for a Dragon Pulse into the Raging Bolt as it tries to resist an Electro Shot, then it's going to take super effective damage as well. And if you've got some Electro Shots already, it would do massive damage. I'm trying to think of a way that you can deal with Faridraf on turn 1 on Lorenzo's side of the field, and the only thing I'm coming up with is Raging Bolt and Urshifu, because then you can go for a Thunderbolt and also a Wicked Blow, and then that hits it in and out of its Terra and probably is able to get the KO. Otherwise, even something like the Golden Go that usually does massive damage, needs to set up the Nasty Plot. So if the Faridraf isn't dealt with, then the Trick Room goes up and Archaladon might just have a field day once again.
And that's the problem as well, because of Faridraf's regular typing, normal Psychic, you're not able to focus down, let's say, a Shadow Ball on it, but then you terrestrialize and all of a sudden it resists those Steel type moves, make it rains coming out if you wanted to try to focus down on the damage. However, we do have some adaptations from both of our trainers. We now have Lorenzo leading with the Oakapon Wellspring and the Raging Bolt straight from the bat, but Tom bringing the Incineroar alongside the Faridraf, recognizing that Lorenzo really needs to focus down on having that immediate effect in disrupting Tom's plans.
Yeah, Tom definitely has Trick Room available if he does want it on this turn. You've got Fake Out and Trick Room, and neither of the Pokemon on Lorenzo's side of the field would be able to KO that Faridraf in one go. It doesn't need to go for its terrestrialization on this turn either. It needs to do that in the face of the single strike Urshifu, but not in front of these. So Tom's able to get the Trick Room if he wants to, and also preserve his terrestrialization for later in the game.
Yeah, and in this scenario, you could just go ahead and it's understandably a bit more of a slower Trick Room setup, but it's more important the fact that you know that Lorenzo's going to try to focus down on slowing your plans, your strategy, pick up those KOs at turn 1, which are so crucial. Maybe hoping to actually go for a Ivy Cudgel critical hit here, maybe the option for Lorenzo going on the offensive. However, Tom can always get that pivot action going at some point, enable a Throat Spray, and have a setup in order to allow that Archaladon a bit more room under Trick Room conditions.
Yeah, for sure. And it seems like terrestrialization all around here. It's going to be the Incineroar going for the grass typing in the face of that Ogerpon using its water type terrestrialization. So maybe expecting the Ivy Cudgel going into that Incineroar slot, and now it's going to easily be able to shrug it off.
Oh, but there's the Fake Out. It goes into the Raging Bolt. It will be stopping it from going for the offensive. However, the Ivy Cudgel focusing down on the Faridraf, not quite enough to pick up the KO there due to the Intimidate, due to the fact that you were hoping to get a critical hit there, which may have actually been able to just slightly be enough, dependent, of course, on some calculations there. But no, Tom has Trick Room set up, has actually utilized the Draft Terrestrialization here, but is in a good spot to get some sort of pivot action going and maybe a bit of setup.
It seems like because the attack went into the Faridraf instead of the Incineroar, the Incineroar going for its terrestrialization here may not have been too impactful, but it's still able to threaten some good damage with its knockoff, and then that will remove the Assault Vest potentially from the Raging Bolt, allowing the Faridraf to do even more damage with its Hyper Voice or its Psychic as well. The Ogerpon isn't really threatened too much here. You're going to have to do that in the future. Maybe with this Pokemon that's switching into the Faridraf.
Oh, this will be a nice sort of 1-2 switch here if we actually see a Parting Shot. But no, the knockoff focusing down on that Raging Ball, wanting to get rid of the Assault Vest as the Archaladon actually dumps onto the field, and unfortunately for itself does incur a -1 in its special attack there. May have not been the intended target, but great target nonetheless, as Ivy Cudgel once again will be coming out from this Ogerpon, focusing down on what was that Faridraf slot. Wow, that is pitiful amount of damage, and all of a sudden we've got a +2 in defense Archaladon, so already getting some sort of setup going for itself.
Yeah, we've seen there what the damage would have been without the critical hit from the Ogerpon into the Archaladon. Like you said, it's a very pitiful damage. That Archaladon's in a really solid position now. The Raging Bolt's lost its Assault Vest, so it's got to be in range of even just a neutral Dragon Pulse at this point, because it wouldn't be able to shrug off those attacks with the Assault Vest anymore. And the terrestrialization's been used, so if you need to go for a Follow Me with the Ogerpon, that would keep it safe from the Dragon Pulse. But at the same time, there could be just a switch out into that Pelipper as well. Doesn't even need to be a hard switch. It could be a Parting Shot switch into the Pelipper so that you can get your Electro Shots going.
Yeah, because at this point, you just want to be able to further disrupt and mitigate the damage output from this Raging Bolt, as we do see Tom try to focus down on, because at this point, you've already got a threat on the field. If you are, Lorenzo's side, being that Archaladon, it can go for those very nice Electro Shot build-ups. of course, we know over on Lorenzo's side, there is no longer the option of terrestrializing that Raging Bolt. It will be stuck there unless it switches out. It will, of course, be susceptible to any sort of attacks going into it. However, the Archaludon is now down to -2 of its special attack. With an Electroshock, we'll try to get back up to -1, but it's still actually working a bit better for Lorenzo here, slowing down its pace.
It should be going for an Electroshot into the Tornadoes, though. If you're going Electroshot in the Raging Bolt at this point, then you wouldn't be doing too much damage. But no, it was actually into the Raging Bolt. There you go. No damage at all. At least you've got a boost. But yeah, you can see how impactful it was that the terrestrialization was used on that Raging Bolt in the first game. That was doing some significant damage with Electroshots. That was not damage.
No.
Like, I barely saw the health bar move there at all. So, but at least the Archaludon now is at +3 defense. It's been snarled, but you don't have to rely on Electroshot. That's one of the nice things about Archaludon with its stamina boost. It's now at +3 defense. Body Press might be able to do some significant damage to that opposing Raging Bolt. You can just go for a Dragon Pulse as well. It can't terror out of that either. At -1, that'll still do some great damage.
Oh, but no sort of protects, no switch outs. Weatherball focusing down on the Tornadoes and no priority coming out from its side. Snarl will be bringing down this Archaludon back to -2 of its special attack, but this may be the situation where the reliance on Body Press will come in. This is a very, very tricky scenario for us, but no, Dragon Pulse Focus actually picks up the KO via that critical hit. Not what Lorenzo wants to see in that scenario, and all of a sudden, he's already lost his first Pokemon.
Yeah, that's not a good critical hit there for Lorenzo. A -2, you're probably surviving that. You get some good chip with the Bleakman Storm at least, but that's another stamina boost yet again for this Archaludon. Its Body Presses are going to be doing some very significant damage at this point. I think it's +5, so it's going to be doing some very, very solid damage into either Pokemon. The Tornadoes is probably in range of the Body Press at this point because it's got so strong with all those boosts. You're probably going to have that Urshifu waiting in the back so you can get a Wicked Blow critical hit through all those boosts. And as I speak it into existence, here it arrives on the field. You just got to be able to stall out the last little bit of Trick Room so that you can get that Wicked Blow into the Archaludon. But at the same time, Pelipper's still on the field. You could try and go for a cheeky Tailwind on the final turn of Trick Room so that your Archaludon would then be able to outspeed.
But then you're still stuck in a situation where this Tornadoes, it can get the Tailwind set up as well, and then sort of you want to be able to try to find a way to bring Farigiraf back onto the field safely in order to get another Trick Room set up, as Urshifu, not wanting to get any sort of Focus Sash of its own, broken. We do see the Tailwind reliance over here in anticipation of this Tornadoes actually going down. May allow a free switch in for Lorenzo into the Ogerpon Wellspring, placed under rain conditions would be quite nice, as that does seem to be likely the case. It depends on the damage, of course, because we know this is a -2 with the Archaludon in its special attack. Now up to -1. Is it enough? Is the real question. And of course, yes, it is indeed, leaving a 2 versus 4 affair that Lorenzo is going to have to really try to put out all the stops for to force a game 3.
Very nicely done by Lorenzo. They're getting that Tailwind on the final turn of Trick Room to match the Pelipper as the Tornadoes was KO'd. So now Lorenzo does have the speed advantage with both of his Pokemon here. And I think that both Pokemon will be in range of either attack here. The Urshifu can critical hit through that Archaludon, and then the Ogerpon would be able to just get a KO with a Hornleech, or even Ivy Cudgel to cover an Incineroar. No, it wouldn't cover an Incineroar switch in. Now it's a Grass-type Incineroar. So that would still be a very solid switch in for Tom at this point. So maybe the Grass Terror didn't look like it was so impactful on that first turn, but now it's able to switch into the Ogerpon very safely if it does want to.
Yeah, exactly. I think Lorenzo's sort of set himself up right now in a very good potential reverse sweep board state. You know, you're able to utilize the fact that your Pokemon are going to most likely, if not always, guarantee outspeed Tom's Pokemon, which are a bit more Trick Room orientated, with a sort of dual mode of Tailwind. But in this scenario, both Tailwinds are set up on either side of the field. And yeah, Tom's going to really have to try to focus down on what his best situation may be to sort of bring this back.
It seems like sacrificing all of those defense boosts on the Archaludon there, because it would have just been KOs to a Wicked Blow. Incineroar's going to be able to intimidate the Urshifu, but it's lost its Dark typing. It's not particularly a switch into Wicked Blow anymore, but at least it should be able to shrug it off.
Oh, but we actually see the Protect coming up from the Pelipper, anticipating the Ivy Cudgel quite nicely, but the Wicked Blow likely to be focusing down on this Incineroar slot, which it does. 2 hit KOs it, of course. It's not just yet. It's now set up, for a second hit, which will guarantee the KO, but we do have Fake Out on the field. Yes, redirection is still available, but this is a scenario where really, if you're Tom, you would have liked the Trick Room option to be available next to the Fake Out. out.
The awkward thing would be that the Fridra's taken so much damage at this point. We're still in the rain. That means that a Terrestrialized Ogerpon is probably still picking up the KO on the Fridraf. The Wicked Blow definitely is. You can't tear it out of that anymore. So still that Terra on the Incineroar, like, coming back to bites Tom a little bit here, because if that could have been just a KO on the Pelipper, and now for a draft, you could have gone for Fake Out Trick Room, but now it's going to be potentially too awkward.
Oh, double switch here, wanting to try to catch out Lorenzo's targeting in this scenario. Archaladon once again rides on the field, but we see the passive, or should I say more defensive situation played out right here. Lorenzo going for a double protect, or in this case a spiky shield and a detect, and the detect naturally does fail as all other Pokemon had either already accomplished their moves or actually gone for a protect themselves.
Yes, makes sense in the face of a Fake Out, just so you can keep yourself safe, keep the Focus Sash intact as well. But this is maybe a potential to get up Trick Room. If Tom is able to get up Trick Room with Fridraf, he's probably going to be able to sweep through the game with his remaining Pokemon, because Urshifu and Ogerpon should be outspeeding all the Pokemon on Tom's side of the field. We've already seen that. But it just needs to contend with getting through this final turn to potentially set up that Trick Room. It can't do it in the face of the Urshifu. That's going to be able to Wicked Blow KO it. There's no switches around, so this might just be a double KO here.
Oh, let's see if it is indeed Ivy Cudgel. Rain Dance boosted, Water Terrestrialization boosted is more than enough to pick up the KO on the Farigiraf. But the real question is here, depending on perhaps the nature of this Urshifu, is it adamant? Will it be able to pick up a KO in this range? And no, it just misses out. 5 hit points remain on this Archaladon, allowing it to get the Electro Shot set up. You are +1, my friend, in special attack, and you may go ahead and actually pick up a KO dependent on actually if it's quite enough on this Ogerpon. But no, the focus is on the Urshifu. It will be at least bringing it down to its Focus Sash, so it's not all completely over just yet.
That means that if the Archaladon would have stayed in with that +5 defense, that could have been a massive body press into both of those Pokemon, because it could have just stayed in, sacrificed the Pelipper, or even protect on that turn of Horn Leech, keep the Pelipper safe. Archaladon survives the Wicked Blow, apparently. That could have been a broken Focus Sash from the Urshifu previous turns without all this extra damage that's racked up on Tom's side of the field, losing his Farigiraf. Trick Room's no longer an option. All these Pokemon are probably in range. There's not really anything stopping just a Spiky Shield and Detect once again on the Fake Out turn. Yes, you could go for an Electro Shot and get another boost, but you can't use it. You've got no HP left. You're in range of any attack that Lorenzo would want to go for.
Yeah, and you're in a bit of an awkward situation, because if you bring in the Pelipper rather than the Incineroar, you're still susceptible to being outsped by both of Lorenzo's Pokemon and having KOs dispatched onto yourself. So Tom is in a very big predicament situation right now for himself, because you're not always going to be able to outspeed. You really need to try to hone in on Lorenzo, maybe misplaying in this scenario, but no, we see the Detect, we see the Spiky Shield. Lorenzo wanting to play it safe right now. He knows he has the advantage. He's not going to fall victim to any sort of baits, as he can always guarantee outspeed.
Yeah, the only way out there that I could see was switch the Incineroar into Pelipper and Electro Shot yourself to get Fake Out back. But unfortunately, the double protects have come out from Lorenzo's side of the field. Fake Out has been used up. Yes, the Archaladon has now got another special attack boost with the Electro Shot, but now you're underspeeding with all of your Pokemon, and everything is in range of any attacks that Lorenzo will want to go for. You can very safely go for Wicked Blow into Incineroar. That's easily a KO. You can go for Ivy Cudgel into Archaladon. That's easily a KO, even with maybe a stamina boost here or there. It's got 5 HP. We're still in the rain. It's gone.
It's gone, and we're still in the rain. That's a very good point, because of the Damp Rock, of course, allowing the further extension of those rain turns going on in the field. But no, Wicked Blow, more than enough to pick up the KO, and Lorenzo already rallying through to a Game 3 in what was such great fashion. You know, we really felt like he was running out of resources towards the mid-game scenario, but Lorenzo did such a great job in utilizing his Pokemon remaining and trying to wait out the Trick Room turns in order to get all of the offense pushed straight back onto Tom.
He was able to survive that Trick Room very nicely, and then we saw it was just Urshifu and Ogerpon the rest of the game, and Urshifu got an attack, but that's what the Focus Sash is for. The rest of the time, it was just Wicked Blow, Ivy Cudgel. What can you do? Your pins. Here's your defensive switch. Doesn't matter. Massive damage. And it was a fantastic adaptation from Lorenzo there. I think the key term was probably just actually going for Tailwind in Trick Room with your Tornadus, as it's been sacrificed, so that the Pelipper can't get that cheeky, Trick Room's ending, I Tailwind now as I KO your Tornadus. So very, very nicely done from Lorenzo there to stall out that Trick Room that was so impactful in that first game, and then just put himself into a position position where it could easily sweep through the rest of the game.
And that's a great thing about, team archetypes such as Tom's. You've got that sort of dual speed mode where you could immediately opt in and opt out as long as you do one of the setters from one mode into the other straight. But no, like you mentioned, Jamie, Lorenzo having a really good core understanding of what was needed to be done there. However, we are going into the critical game 3 right now. Tom's strategy of bringing the Incineroar didn't seem to quite work for himself there. The grass terastallization was kicked off early, and it wasn't well utilized until acting as a sort of a sponge of a switch in later on in the game, where you feel like Incineroar being Incineroar, it's got its 4th consecutive win so far going into this weekend. It should have done a bit more, shouldn't it?
I think, you mentioned the terastallization. I think that was maybe a misstep from Tom in that first turn. If you take the Ivy Cudgel from the Ogerpon, you get a switch straight into your Archaludon in that Trick Room. You can start firing off Electro Shots and get boosting straight away. Yes, you sacrifice your Incineroar in that case, but that should be okay.
Yeah.
If Tom still had his terastallization later in the match, you could have maybe defensively terrored with the Farigiraf so that forces the Ivy Cudgel not to be a KO. It has to be Wicked Blow. Oh, and suddenly my partner is freed up because it wasn't being Wicked Blowed. Yep. But Archaludon survived that attack anyway, so that was pretty impactful there. So yeah, holding on to the Terra might be a bit more useful for Tom in this game, because that Grass one seemed nice. Like, yeah, you can switch into the Ivy Cudgel and Horn Leech in the future, but it got rid of its defense type to Wicked Blow, so then it wasn't a switch in for that either.
But let's see, we've got the critical game 3 right now. Same leads from both trainers with that game 2. Incineroar still getting that Intimidate off onto the Ogerpon, bringing down to -1, but more importantly, has that Fake Out available. So what are we thinking here, Jamie? We're going to see adaptation based on game 2 and further reads, or the same turns?
You surely hold on to your Terra if you're Tom at this point. So, as previously mentioned, it's okay if you take an Ivy Cudgel with Ogerpon on the Incineroar. With the Terra, you're probably getting that KO, but then you get the switch into your Trick Room Sweeper in that Archaludon. And then your Farigiraf is free to just start going for its Hyper Voices, get the Throat Spray as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tom just holds on to the Terra. Whether Lorenzo commits to his is another question, because, yeah, you probably need to get that Terra to get that KO into the Incineroar if you do want to. Or do you go for just some very good damage into the Farigiraf either? And yeah, both players holding off on their terastallization this time.
But the Fake Out does focus down on the Raging Bolt as it did the prior turn. Horn Leech actually being opted as the move of choice here. No Ivy Cudgels, just wanting to maybe, sort of recover any sort of damage or maybe anticipate any switch-ins there. But no, just like the safe Horn Leech in that scenario. Maybe Lorenzo opting to go for a strategy of just waiting out the turns of Trick Room slowly yet surely, similar to what he did in that game 2.
Yeah, definitely should be able to, as evidence in that game 2. Was able to just spam the Snarls so that you weren't doing too much damage with your Archaludon. Yes, you were racking up those body press damage boosts from your defense, but then they weren't utilized. So able to do very well with the Raging Bolt here. I wouldn't be surprised if that Raging Bolt tries to do exactly the same thing. The Farigiraf has the opportunity to activate its Throat Spray, get that Hyper Voice doing some good damage here. But it seems like the Farigiraf actually is slower than the Incineroar, so there was no option for a knock off the Assault Vest into the Hyper Voice instead.
Very nice. Of course, it will be able to bring itself up now to +1 of its special attack. Parting Shot following suit immediately after will be bringing this Raging Bolt down to -1, so it's not going to be able to get as much damage output as it would have liked, but more critically, it may go for that similar strategy as the prior game with the Snarls. You want to be able to slow down the momentum or special offensive momentum of both the Farigiraf as well as the incoming Archaludon, which it does. So really nice play here, more so trying to go for the sustainability strategy once again, and maybe pick up some recovery damage, go for another Horn Leech, or focus with the Ivy Cudgel into the Farigiraf. Not quite enough to pick up the KO, but at this point, like we've mentioned, Jamie, Lorenzo's just wanting to try to further extend and waste out the turns of Trick Room. That is the key strategy in his plan right now.
It seems like he's essentially used up the Throat Spray on the Farigiraf, because it got to +1 and then it's now back to -1 with a Snarl from the Raging Bolt. So it wouldn't be too much of an issue to switch out the Farigiraf. You maybe wouldn't have wanted to sacrifice your +1, but now you're back to neutral and your item's been used. There's no issue to switch out into the Pelipper here, get that Electro Shot going for that one-turn charge, and get that momentum rolling for the Archaludon. But it is at -1, so that means that you have to get back to neutral to do some okay damage to both of these Pokemon. The Ogerpon hasn't gone for its terastallization, so Electro Shot won't be doing as much damage as it could have been. game. And of course, the Raging Bolt's going to shrug that off completely.
Yeah, as we do have the Pelipod coming in right now, Electroshock is likely going to be the move of choice right here. Maybe focus down on the Ogerpon, which makes a lot of sense right now due to the fact that, you want to keep on getting that damage going. You're going to get susceptible to that Snarl, right, which pushes it down now to -2 of its special attack on the Chaladon, but it does once again bring up that defensive boost, which is something that perhaps Tom can weigh in on later in the game.
Yeah, and he didn't utilize the body press even when he was at +5 in that previous game. +2 is very significant here. +2 body press might be stronger than a -1 Electroshot. Not in Tornadus, though.
No.
That's still very good damage. That's easily Gun's 2-shot and has also put it in range of a Weather Ball or a Hurricane from the Pelipper as well. Probably want to go for that Hurricane instead of Weather Ball because that could be an Ogerpon switch in and should still be able to easily pick up the KO on that Tornadus, although it has been snarled, so it may be able to survive. I think we saw that the Pelipper does underspeed the opposing Raging Bolt in Trick Room, so it'll be a -1 attack if the Pelipper does want to go on the offensive this turn, but it does not. It wants to switch out instead.
Oh, switching out for the Incineroar is quite nice here because you're able to allow for the Fake Out being available for the subsequent turn here in anticipation of this Tornadus actually going down here, unless it goes to Protect, but it does not. Draco Meteor actually doing some good amount of damage onto this Assault Vest Archaladon here, which is further boosting its defense up to +3 now. Electroshot will likely, of course, be honing in on the Tornadus. Being able to position yourself at this situation for Tom, at least you're able to get rid of any sort of the Tailwind support. No, but actually it's not even in the Tornadus. It goes into the Raging Bolt, maybe anticipating any sort of cheeky switch outs here or whatnot, but Bleakwind Storm, on the other hand, being able to further deal a bit of damage chip-wise, but also boost this Archaladon up to +4 defense.
Yeah, that's 3 different games that Archaladon has been going for Electroshots into that Raging Bolt. Did very well in that first game, caught the Fairy Terrestrialization very nicely indeed. Maybe that's what Tom's going for here, expecting the Terrestrialization into the Fairy type because of the Dragon Pulse that could come out into that opposing Raging Bolt. But that Archaladon was only at -1 before it clicks the Electroshot to put it back to neutral there. So the Dragon Pulse is surely not going to be able to KO that Raging Bolt. It hasn't had its Assault Vest knocked off in this game. It's been parting shotted, so it's not doing as much damage as you saw with the Draco Meteor. But now it's going to be doing pretty much no damage now that it's a -3. But yeah, it's just that could have been a KO into the Tornadus with that Electroshot, and it wasn't utilized that turn.
No, it wasn't, but I think it's sort of both players are a bit more hesitant and aware of adaptations that each can actually go ahead for, as we are going to be seeing the parting shot rotation going once again, now bringing that Ogerpon down to -1 of its attack, but more crucially, you may be in a spot where you can actually either bring Pelipper or the Farigiraf now. Maybe try to hone in and focus on threatening that Ogerpon with the Pelipper. With the Hurricanes, you know that you are no longer susceptible to a wait.
There it is.
What Ogerpon? It's absolutely knocked out from that +4 body press, which is finally being utilized by Tom here. But Bleakwind Storm being able to add up some more drops of HP resource available for both of Tom's Pokemon.
Yeah, we could have been seeing that in that game too. That body press able to just clear the field of that Ogerpon fantastically. At least the Trick Room has been expired on this turn, so that the Urshifu should be outspeeding, and once again the Archaladon's taken a lot of damage. Yes, the defense boosts are nice, as evidenced by that massive body press KO in the Ogerpon, but that gave that switch into the Urshifu. Now that can go for a Wicked Blow straight through those defense boosts, it might have actually been better not to KO the Ogerpon that turn, because Archaladon and Tornadus probably, Tornadus and Ogerpon probably can't KO Archaladon even with that low HP, because they're just doing not very effective damage. Ogerpon wouldn't do no damage at all because of all the defense booster. But now getting that KO, yeah, it was nice. Body press, great damage. But here's Urshifu immediately, and then that's going to threaten the KO into either of these Pokemon.
Yeah, it's sort of Tom playing into Lorenzo's strategy of once again waiting out the turns of Trick Room, having all of the speed control in his favor. He doesn't need Tailwind. He just needs to connect his moves, and that is exactly what he is looking to do. He goes ahead and terrestrializes that Urshifu. It's going to be dealing so much more damage with its Wicked Blows, likely definitely being able to pick up the KOs here where he needs to, but Tom is trying to counteract with his own terrestrialization, that Fairy being utilized neutralize on Chaludon, may be able to put himself in the position where it might resist, but you're susceptible to a Bleak Windstorm, though.
You absolutely are now, and yeah, that is the move of choice. Able to do great damage to both these Pokemon. At least Tom will make it through the turn with one of his Pokemon still intact, but Wicked Blow's taking a KO on either Pokemon here, especially with that Terra Dark, and yeah, the Fairy's not saving the Archelodon there, making it weak to that Bleak Windstorm, or at least not resisting the Bleak Windstorm anymore, and then the extra Terra on top of that. Lorenzo really committing to KOing this Archelodon this turn. Able to do it. At least the Pelipper survives, though.
At least it does. Weather Ball focusing down on this Urshifu will be able to finally break its Focus Sash there. Not quite enough to bring it down to 1 HP, but once again, we're in the scenario where Tom doesn't have all of the necessary pieces he needs on the field in order to get either, let's say, Tailwind safely set up or the Trick Room. There is a case where, of course, he can actually get Tailwind set up right now. Maybe something that he's trying to hone in on with that Fake Out pressure. However, Lorenzo does have a Tornadus on the other side of the field. It will be able to match it, and it does have Prankster in order to outspeed any sort of Pelipper speed, like speed training under Tailwind conditions.
Yeah, if you go for a Fake Out Tailwinds, yes, you could guarantee that you have it, but then the Tornadus would survive that turn and just click Tailwind the next turn, so that won't be too impactful here. You ideally wanted to go into the Farigiraf there to be able to set Trick Room. You need Trick Room at this point. All your Pokemon are under speeding, and the Tailwind won't help you. So now that everything's just being taken so much damage, Pelipper's going to be KO'd to either attack of the coming out from Lorenzo's side of the field. It won't be the Tornadus, because that's been faked out, but Urshifu gets to Wicked Blow once again if it wants to. Yeah,
this is very free for itself. It actually goes for the close combat, and it does pick up the KO, actually, onto the Incineroar, well within range to do so. Of course, it did have its damage output mitigated because of the Intimidate, but it was still within that range to be able to do it. But no Tailwind setup here. Weather Ball instead picking up the KO on the Tornadus, and all of a sudden we've got a 2 versus 2 affair between both of our trainers. But more importantly, Tom has a speed control setter aside. He's got the Pelipper and the Farigiraf, which obviously he just at this point wants to be able to pick up the KOs he needs to. Urshifu looking like such a menace, but more importantly, the Raging Bolt. It's so healthy.
Yeah, it's not taking much damage at all. +5 body press would have been nice. I think it was only +3 actually, but that was still enough to KO the Ogerpon. It would have done great damage since Raging Bolt. But at this point, there's a Wicked Blow into the Farigiraf. That's a KO. There's an electric type attack into the opposing Pelipper. That's KO. Doesn't really matter. Either way around, doesn't matter. The Wicked Blow is going to KO either Pokemon. Might as well just KO the Pelipper on this turn.
Well, exactly that, as we're going to see the Raging Bolt go for the Thunderbolt, and it will be likely picking up the KO here, and it does. And there you have it, Lorenzo being able to bring this one back and force himself straight over to 3-0.